Guys, this is Jennifer from the Shooter's Mindset, and we are live with episode 456. We have our co-hosts in the house. We got Greg. How's it going?
I'm just gonna miss that. Hey guys.
Me
Aw.
too.
Y'all want me to record it and you can like put it in there? You're just sad you're not
Doesn't
gonna be able to
me
find
feel
it
sad.
on the audio with the hey guys. All right. How's it going, Corey?
Really good. Spent the last 2 weeks off, government job. Now I'm back to work, and it's a little strange. I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Gotta go back to work. It's no fun.
Yeah, no, it actually is fun.
It's fun to go back to work. I don't know. I'd
Oh
enjoy going.
yeah,
His
I
job's
love my job.
I love my job.
I love my job.
Likewise.
Well, I like my job. It's okay, but I like time off too. And Camden, how's it going?
Good. It's going good. It's been nice to have a slower season over the holidays. I shot a match over the weekend. It's good to be behind my rifle. And then it's like the calm before the storm before SHOT Show gets here. And then it'll be like matches almost every weekend. But I'm kind of sad because it's your last podcast, so we won't have your beautiful face on here anymore. So
Oh,
we're just gonna smile and be happy.
I know. And for my last show, I wanted to have good friends on here. And so we have our guests of the hour that everybody wants to hear from. We have my good friends, Chad Heckler and Francis Cologne. How's it going?
Excellent and improving.
Going fantastic. Yeah.
And then it just so happened that Francis went and had to spice it up and go and win the AG Cup a couple weeks ago. So we always have our winner of the AG Cup on. So this is like a dual purpose show. It was going to be I want to have my farewell show with my good friends. And now it's also, oh yeah, Francis, you won the AG Cup. So we got to talk about that too. So we're going to do all of the above in the show.
It's gonna be a good show.
It is going to be a
Will
good show.
be.
We had it
Oh,
planned out ahead of time. I remember messaging Jen and I was like, hey, like, let's do this for the last one. And then when he shot that last shot and we knew he won the AG Cup, I look over at Jen, I'm like, now I got something to talk about.
that's right. That's right. I was like, well, yep, now we know what we're talking about.
And then like right after that, she looked over at me. She goes, "Hey, we got next week off now because we're doing them next week for the week the seventh, whenever."
That's right. I was like, they're already booked for the 7th. Now we have a week off. So for anyone that doesn't know you guys, if they're new to the show, new to long range, and maybe don't know y'all, I want you to each take a turn and tell us a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you got into shooting. That's always fun to hear how people got into shooting because some people think, oh, you're the AG Cup champion. Because also, for anyone that doesn't know, Chad also has won the AG Cup previously. So they're both, this is a two AG Cup champion show. But you'd think, oh, well, they won the AG Cup championship. They must have like been born with a rifle in their hand. So it's always interesting to hear the story of how you got into shooting, right? Because it's not always as you would think. So tell us kind of a little about yourself, how you got into shooting, and then kind of what you do in the industry also. So if you'll each take a turn doing that.
Chad first.
I was going to say, you go first. Okay, so this story just seems like it keeps getting longer because at the beginning, you grab a rifle and you go hang out with some friends and you think that that's where it starts. And then you progress and then you get better and you win some matches and you're like, okay, this like is the end or this is like the pinnacle. And then you just keep going. And that's been our experience together over these last, it's been almost 8 years now, 7 years. I got my first precision rifle in 2017 and became addicted right away. At first, it was a thing to go hang out with friends, and squatting is kind of stressful. I mean, you guys shoot matches, PRS type matches. Squatting can be stressful to get on the squad with your friends, and I remember at the very beginning, like being so stressed out about the fact that I did not get in a squad with my friends, and I'm like, why am I even doing this? And then I had the absolute best time going to shoot with 10 other people that I had no idea who they were. And I was like, okay, this is the sport for me. My first match was a Guardian long range match. They're still doing them. They put them on up at MTC, which is our home range. And from there, like my friend circle just kept expanding and expanding. And my goal in 2019 was to make the pro finale, and I made the pro finale. And Francis and I, we were kind of realized we had the same goal and the same rough schedule. And that's kind of when we started, I think was that year we started riding together and talking. And after that, like every morning we would talk on the phone. He knew that I'd be driving to work at 7:30 and we'd talk from 7:30 to 8 every single morning. We still do. Now he calls me at 8. I'm not sure why it changed to 8. You can change it back to
I'll
6
move it.
a.m. if you want, 6:30. So somewhere along that point, Jen and I started talking about dry fire. So I think the first time I was on this podcast was for, the dry fire training group that we set up and I was perpetuating every week. A lot of people saw benefit in that, and I think I had the most benefit. It created some accountability for me while I was training that I knew people were going to watch it. It still exists, but I don't participate in it anymore just because I don't have the time. And then after that, I guess another notable milestone is that I was having a hard time getting barrels fast enough, and so I started chambering my own barrels. My FFL is due for my second research, so it's been about 6 years, and I've made a lot of friends and relationships doing that, but also the reward that I get from shooting my own barrels and winning the AG Cup with one of my own barrels and winning the World Championships this last year. I don't know. The sky's the limit. Like I feel so thankful to have been able to perform when it mattered, and then other times when I didn't, my buddy wins, and so it feels like a win either way. It's awesome. So I don't know. We're not here to talk about me though. Let's talk about Francis.
No, I mean, this is I think we said it earlier. This is going to be a podcast about us and, TSM and Jen. And I love the back and forth that we have on this show. But man, we have such similar stories that it's kind of wild. I started shooting. I grew up hunting as a kid, but really I didn't start getting competitive with shooting until 2018. And it was with non-PRS style matches and DMR. And then in 2019, I really said I want to do this more and built my first full-on precision rifle through Area 419. Craig helped me build a 6.5 and then or 223, I forget which. I think it was a 6.5 first and then a 223. And then that progressed and I just kept morphing my equipment over that season. And like Chad, my goal, my first season was to get to the pro finale. I heard this idea that you go to the pro finale and that's where all the greatest shooters are. I wanted to see what that was like. I did qualify. I won the Midwest Championship or Club Championship and made the pro finale. And like Chad said, I think he said it perfectly. You feel like every time you win early on or you get close to the podium, this is as good as it gets. And then honestly, it could have been, but then you just reset your goal. You go, well, what if I insert the next goal you have and you just keep moving forward? And the next time is, well, I want to win another regional or I want to win a national match or something similar. That story is what kept us from 2019 till now. It's been that series of leapfrog type goals the entire time. Just can you do a little bit better the next weekend than you did the prior weekend? So, my trajectory within the industry prior to 2019, I was in the golf industry. And for about 10 years, I went out of the golf industry and into the shooting industry with applied ballistics for about 4 years. And just recently, in late August, early September of 2024, I switched over and became an employee of MDT. So now I work full time as the special projects manager for MDT. And man, it's been fantastic to see different facets within our industry and looking outside, inwards, and now being a part of it, getting to meet all the people that I see across from barrel manufacturers, chassis, actions to ammo. It's such a cool experience to be a part of this industry. So
That's awesome. So you got to win the AG Cup. You talk about all the little goals along the way. For anybody that hasn't been along for all this journey, Chad won the AG Cup, and when I was announcing this year, I was like, yeah, Chad. I was announcing Chad doing a stage, and I'm like, yeah, Chad is a previous AG Cup winner. I believe he won in, I think it was 2023, because it was like, let's see, it was
Long time ago.
Last year's a long time ago. Oh wait,
Yeah.
that was like 2021. Anyway, it was like 2021, right? Am I right, Chad?
Yeah, 21.
21. Yeah, when I got doing the math, it was like 21. 23 feels like a long time ago, but it was not. It was 21. Um,
That's not
but
even relevant anymore.
anyway, I feel like old. I feel old whenever I'm like, yeah, that happened a long time ago. But that year I know was such an emotional roller coaster of a year. You won the 2-day match
Mhm.
that
Francis.
year. Francis won the 2-day match that year. And
By a
then,
healthy margin. I think he won it by like 8 points or something.
yes,
Wow.
he
Maybe more.
shot really well.
Yeah.
And then on the third day, didn't shoot as well.
He only was 2 points out. Like he was only 2 points down. He had the highest cumulative score for the whole weekend. So if it would have been a 3-day match, Francis would have been on top by like, I don't know, 10 points or 12 points or something. I mean, it's crazy. And I can't remember who put out um the
Statistics.
scores, like from all the AG Cups that Francis has shot, take away the first one. He and Clay are the top two point holders for those match. I don't know who put that out. Do you, Francis?
Uh,
I can't
That
remember his
was
name. Cal.
Precision Ref Cal.
Yeah.
Cal's hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you just didn't quite get it that third day, and it's been like that, right? And it's been right there. It's been like that, you grasp, and it's just been so close and so close. And then to finally, it all came together for you this year, and you got that cup and you got that belt. How did that feel this year?
I wish I still really don't have words for it, to be blunt. It was such a surreal moment. I remember feeling a quick version. I was standing between stage 9 and 10. I happened to be standing near the scores and I hadn't looked at them much. But I was standing there. I see I'm in like, I think it was the second or third. Then Matt Caruso was up towards the top and leading it. And I was just kind of BSing with a couple of the guys and just chatting around. I see Tom walk up. We were chit-chatting. I'm looking at the scores and I just happened to hear shots and we're like, oh, I think Matt's shooting right now. And then I look at the board, I see Matt walking away, and I all of a sudden see my name flip to the top, and I went to a 1 point lead, and I remember thinking I should have walked away like 10 seconds ago. This was just 5-10 seconds too late. I just immediately walk away and just say, well, that doesn't mean much. You don't know who else is going to shoot. Honestly, it's just one more stage. Let's just see where it goes. And this was actually the stage last year that I think took me out a second. It was the long range back and forth, and I skipped a target, and it was out of sequence. So I ended up just all over the place and dropped, I think, 6 or 7. So it was definitely sort of a redemption stage. And I remember getting ready, getting my rifle squared away, and just thinking, I'm also the last shooter on the last stage
Of the day.
of the day, thinking that
Oh,
probably
man.
means I have to clean this to win it. That was all I was thinking. With a
The
1
funny
point,
thing is, like, we got to say this.
oh,
Tom was standing by you and you noticed the scores and you walked away. And then Tom was like wringing his hands. He was so nervous. Because remember 2 years ago at the Clinton House when they did the award ceremony, Tom's like, well, I'm going to do it again next year because Francis hasn't won it yet. Tom is just, and
yeah.
Tom
my
is just standing there
gosh.
and he's wringing his hands and he's like, I'm so nervous, dude. My gut is like in knots. And he's like, Francis needs to clean this stage, I think. And I looked him in the eye, I said, Francis is going to clean the stage. And he told me after the match, he's like, when I looked you in the eyes, I knew that you would have bet $1 million on Francis cleaning that stage. Like that's how serious you were when you looked at me. He's like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. He
Oh,
patted me on the back. He's like, that's a real friend, man. And I was dead honest. I was like, let's all huddle around because he's going to clean the stage and it's going to be epic.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Man, it was very cool. I don't know the actual stage itself. I still remember every shot. I remember seeing 3 shots that broke perfectly, but ended within the splash of a bullet to the edge of a target, and not making a correction intentionally because they were on the upwind side. I'm like, you know what? If I just trust this, my groups have been centered. The only thing I did was pulled about a half a tenth or so to near a tenth out as I went targets 4, 5, 6, half a tenth, 3/4, half a tenth, and then 1/10 out as I went out to the last. But beyond that, I remember every shot. I remember seeing where they hit, And it was when the last one was fired. So
Yeah.
earlier in the day on day 3, Chad happened to he was behind me and watching me shoot the long range. I think we shot, what was it, 800 to 1300 yards on those IPSCs. And I
I mean, I
fired
was
my,
literally watching you on glass, that's for sure.
what's that?
I was not watching you on
No,
glass,
no,
that's
no,
for
no, no.
sure.
I'm saying you were standing behind as you were nearby, and you watched me break a shot, and it was the last round. I
Oh
just
yeah,
bang,
I was
bang,
next to you.
fired. I fired, opened my bolt, and stood up, and I'm already off the gun. Ding, impact, and I'm like, I knew it was gonna hit Butch on like a little bit of trace, and he kind of half scolded me. He's like, "Dude, those are the best shots to watch. Why would you not watch that?" And he kind of scolded me for it. I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." So fast forward, the end of the day, the very last shot. I remember just sending the round and just seeing the trace go up and go, please stay there. Please stay there. Green light. And then I just remember putting my head down. That's about it. I remember the last flasher going off and thinking, I think I just cleaned it. And yeah, that's
Mm.
then the moment. I mean, I don't know. I can't understand exactly what Chad went through when he won his, but I remember standing to his left, about 5 people away, watching a dot appear on his KYL rack to clean on that shoot off, seeing the impact, looking over and leaping over 10 people, and seeing Chad with his head down in, I think, the same position that I was
It
in,
was
which
exactly
is
the
just
same.
head down. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the normal reaction after you clean or shoot a stage and win the AG Cup, is just stick your head down because you realize it's the 15 best shooters in the world are trying to take that away from you, and you just succeeded. So
Oh,
it's, yeah, I shouldn't even say it's that we're all trying to earn the same trophy, the same cup, and we're trying to do it every single weekend. But this weekend is so
yeah.
special because it's the most laid back you'll ever see the top 15 to 20 shooters, and yet we're shooting in the toughest course of fire that we're likely going to shoot all season,
The
guaranteed.
highest stakes.
Yeah, with the highest stakes.
Right.
So
And we
Right.
joke a lot
Right.
about chances, but
yeah,
you just described leaping over 5 people. He's not kidding. I think that's on video. He literally, I've called Francis Spider Monkey before because he just kind of jumps onto props, like leaps and with his rifle in his hand. But he literally did just jump over people to get to Chad when he won. And it's always neat to watch because y'all are truly happy for the other one. You never are like, oh man, I hate that I didn't win. Like that never happens. You truly have joy for each other. So my question, Chad, to you is, how did it feel to get to watch Francis, a couple of weeks ago win? How was that for you then?
So you have to rewind before the last stage, because I was shooting one of the more difficult stages on the last 4, and I could see like where he was in the standings, because I knew I was out of it. I mean, Austin Orgain came to me before the stage, and he's like, "Looks like you and I are fighting for last place, Heckler." And so I already knew, like I had already went for a couple stages. It wasn't going my way, and because there's still $1,000 per stage. And it's just not my style. I mean, there was no chance for me to get any higher than I was. So on the last stage, I'm like, I just need to get this done so that I can see Francis win this thing. And I think I got a 1 on the last stage. Camden, you were talking about like not missing 2 shots in a row. I probably missed 10 shots in a row just so I could get it over with. By the way, congrats on your win last weekend. We skipped over that. Good job.
Thank you.
Did you get sprinkles on your ice cream? Because that's what you have to do. Sprinkles on your ice cream.
No,
Sprinkles are for
I
winners.
didn't.
Well,
My treat after a win is getting a Shirley Temple. That's my
okay.
treat after a
Well,
win.
that's good. That sounds
Oh.
tasty.
Yeah.
So I got a 1 out of 12. It was a 12-round stage, I think, and ran over, and there was 2 shooters left. I think I got to see Caruso finish up his run, and then I saw Bushman who cleaned it, and he thought that he was the fastest, only clean. I think there was only 2 cleans, right, Francis?
yeah, Bushman and I definitely.
So Bushman laid down a clean with like, I don't know, 3 seconds left on the clock. And so then I get over there, and I have the interaction with Tom about Francis needing to clean the stage, and telling him that it was going to happen. And then, yeah, I think you were standing next to me, Jen, and it was pretty emotional, for sure for me. I knew that he was going to be a wreck as soon as it was over with, but the cool thing was like in the moment, I could tell that he was in like the ultimate flow state. He was shooting the exact cadence for every shot. I could tell he was watching. Honestly, I thought he was going to time out. He was going so slow. But the crush it timer beeped at the halfway point, right at the turn on this after the sixth target, and I was like, okay, this is perfect timing. And he just
Mhm.
kept stacking the rounds on the targets. And then how did it feel? It felt amazing. Like it felt like uh, that we did it together because
Yeah.
Francis always says, he says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it is so true from our experiences that we've had in this through from the beginning, through the podcast, through all the matches, through me winning K&M match as my first match and him winning it the next year. Like we're both our names are on that board right next to each other. It's
Yeah.
freaking incredible.
That's
And,
so
the competition's getting better and better. The matches are getting harder and harder. And, we're still able to remain competitive. It's just, I'm thankful for that. And it's, I'm thankful for all the friends that I've made and, Francis on top of that. Yeah, it was awesome. That's it. It was awesome. I wouldn't change a thing. I even got sick afterwards, and I could have been because of Francis. He was sick. He brought it back from Sweden. But I told him, I was like, I don't care if I'm sick. I wouldn't change a thing. You start changing one thing, and then the wheels come off, and then it doesn't end up the way it ended up. And it was perfect. So, and we got all the bacon. So
Yeah, all the bacon.
yeah. Just waiting for the bacon.
So how much was all the bacon? The people want to know.
it goes back to 2021 because I remember seeing that Ron Swanson, it's from Parks and Rec, I think, where he goes to the restaurant and he's like, I'll have all the eggs and bacon, he tells the waitress. And they bring him a lot of eggs and bacon. He's like, no, I don't think you heard me. I said all the all the bacon. And so we did that the first time when I won it, and I had to pay the tab. This time he had to pay the tab. So I'll let you say how you came up with the number because we didn't get all the bacon. They have a lot of bacon at Waffle House, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. So we're sitting behind Al Pacino. Was it Al Pacino's lookalike?
Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. Or no, it was the Meet the Fockers guy, the dad. Not that. At any rate,
De Niro.
De
Robert
Niro,
De
yeah,
Niro,
he was
yeah.
sitting
We're
next to
sitting
us
next to
at the Waffle
yeah,
House.
Robert De Niro is off to our left. And we're at the end of this bar, and I'm like, all right. The waitress comes over and asks, like, okay, what can we get you? And they, how they do it in just a few seconds. Okay, coffee, orange juice, and a water. Chad does the coffee and a water. And I'm just like, well, how many pieces of bacon are there? 3 per order, right? And I'm like, yeah, so that's be 20. So like if I wanted 20 or if I wanted 30, like one for every stage, 30 pieces, or 30 orders. She's like, wait, that's so 10 orders? No. 30 orders. And so, and then I'm like, no way. Okay, 21. That's a lucky number. And Chad's kind of looking at me and he kind of pulls me aside. He's like, dude, no. I'm like, okay, 10, 7. Seven's like 7 orders of bacon. So it's 21 slices of bacon. And this lady is just looking at us doing this little back and forth, like, what are these guys on? Like 20 orders of bacon after I had just ordered like everything on their menu. I ordered an omelet plus what is it?
We
The
told her
grapes
we were
and-
having a good day.
Oh
She
yeah,
she
just
should have
everything.
understood.
Oh, can I get? Yeah, let's do hash browns. I can't say the way that I ordered them, but that also got some weird looks. We were told
No,
to.
they were back there wanting to know what weed y'all smoked.
Oh,
No,
they
we-
were doing something, and they were thinking like, "What are these guys on?" It's like 9 in the morning or 8 in the morning. So we order this, and she's like, "That's a lot of bacon." She is laughing her tail off, and they all the cooks and all the waitresses all went into the little back room, and you could see them powwow and looking through the door, going, "What are these guys doing? They just ordered 10, like 7 orders of bacon. Like, who does that? Plus, the guy has all the plates." And yeah, when I took the photo of that wasn't even all my food. There was actually 3 or 4 plates out of the frame a little bit closer. So, all the bacon, we ended up at 21 pieces of bacon, which was, I think, a little bit more than we had the first time, but we ate most of it.
Yeah, I think we took 3 pieces to go and they went to waste.
Yep.
Man,
But
there's
anyway,
nothing like
it was-
some good walking bacon.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
we
yeah.
said. It's
It was-
exactly what we
it was
said.
good.
This is car bacon.
Car bacon. Yep.
There we go. Oh, so good. So let's talk. So we talked about your victories and how you guys got started, but I want to hear what caliber are both of you running for your rifle builds, and then what makes up your rifle build? Can you tell us like all the components of your rifle?
Yeah. So this year it's a little different for me. Most of it's the same. And we both shoot for MDT, but I have an MDT ACC Elite. I'm
Hmm.
shooting. I'm going to switch it up a little bit more this year. I finished the last half of the year last year with a 6.5 Creed and a one dasher match. This season, I'm probably going to be 75 to 80% 6.5 Creed more. The old standby. It's super easy to load for.
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed going back to the cartridge that I started with. That was my first competitive round. And it
Mm.
was just
Yeah.
kind of this internal, like, hey, I want to get back to learning higher recoil, not letting the rifle do all the work, and just getting back into fundamentals.
Yeah.
So 6.5 Creed with 140 hybrids, Lapua cases with N150. They're about
Hmm.
as basic as you can get, nothing
Yeah.
Yep.
fancy. And Chad's contour, he's the 5x5 contour. It's a 1.15-ish straight taper, more or less, at the muzzle, and it's straight for that through most of the profile.
Hmm.
Impact action, ACC Elite chassis. I use 5 internal weights, so all the internals, and then one set of externals out front. Trigger Tech Diamond, the Maverick suppressor,
Hmm.
Loophole optic, and Area 419 match mount right now. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. I think that's all. Bipod, Skypod, and sometimes I'll use
Hmm.
AccuTac, but I generally use the Skypod when I can. It's just very versatile. So
Yeah. Nice. Sounds like a
yeah,
good rifle build.
So I guess I'll go next. You said what caliber do we shoot?
Hmm.
People tell me like, well, what are you doing shooting? You're shooting 25 now, you're shooting three. I can't shoot more than one caliber. Guys, come on. Like I shoot a lot. I build guns every single day. I
There
can't
we
be
go.
limited to one cartridge. I just will not. I will not do it. So
Yeah.
I've got three that I shoot now. Last year it would have been two if
Nice.
you would have asked me this time last year. My
Okay.
main cartridge that I love and I'll never give up is some type of six BR variant. I'm
Hmm.
literally shooting a lot of the 6BR because it's easy.
Hmm.
Aqua Brass, N150, 105 hybrids, best bullet on the planet.
Yep.
And I shot a lot of 25 cal this last year. I ended up shooting the 25 by 47 at the finale and at the AG Cup, and it treated me really well. But in the middle there, I got onto the world team in the limited division and had to shoot 308. And I say I had to shoot it, but I got to shoot it. I got to have fun. They allowed me to have fun and win with the
Love it.
308, which like I was so nervous going from a 6BR to a 308. And then on top of it, I had to shoot factory ammo. It was
You did
almost
quite well.
it was almost mind-blowing that when I put that rifle together on a Wednesday, the ammo showed up on a Thursday. I went to flew down to a match on Friday, and I think I got in the top five the first match. The second match I actually won with a 308 factory ammo against, and there was four national match winners there. So I was like, okay, maybe I can shoot this thing and then go to the world championship. And it wasn't easy, but it
Yeah.
also, I shot well and it worked out.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations on your
yeah,
win,
thank
by the
you.
way.
Yeah,
It was awesome to see you
it
take
was
home the
so
trophy.
it was such a cool match. You were there. Obviously had a lot to do with it. Thanks for that. And it was so like I went there with the expectation to meet all the people from all the different countries that I hadn't met before and hang out with them. And that
Yeah.
far surpassed my expectations on how cool everybody was. And I
Oh,
wasn't, it's not that I wasn't thinking about the match, but that was like almost secondary. And
mhm.
then, the fact that the match was every other day instead of having to go back to back allowed you to mingle and watch other shooters. And it was just a
Yeah.
really cool experience. I'm super thankful to have it. And I'm hoping that my boy Francis can come hang out with me in the next one.
Yeah. There we go.
Be really cool. So,
Um,
I mean, I'm probably going to shoot 308 this whole year just to
okay.
be able to qualify for the 2026. I feel like there's more demand and I had so much fun. Why not?
Right. Right. Cool. And then what is your rifle setup?
It's very similar to Francis. I guess there's only a couple differences. Um, I shoot lone peak actions instead of impact, which they're pretty similar anyway.
Hmm.
We're both shooting the MDT ACC, both shooting Mark Fives, Bartline barrels, and then other than the bullets for the different cartridges, then everything else is pretty much the same. Trigger tech triggers. I
Hmm.
don't know if I already said that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, I do have the old man like little magnifier in front of my turret. He doesn't have that.
That is a difference. That affects balance.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Other
good.
than that, I mean, if you laid them over top of each other, they'd look pretty similar. Mine's longer. Mine's a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Attaboy.
our buddies, one of
I'm
our
shooting a
buddies made us a
28-inch
challenge
barrel.
coin,
Yeah.
and the challenge coin actually, this is a version, but it has both of our rifles on it, and there's a newer version that has the exact
Oh,
rifles. And I'm like, did you really change them? And then I had to really scrutinize, and yeah, they are so
oh,
close that you can barely tell them apart. But Chad's grip is a little different, and his little old man eye ocular is
Yep.
different, but otherwise they're the same.
so good.
We're only like a year apart, so to be fair, I'm probably right behind him. And now he's using contacts. And he did say, which this is kind of a cool one. He said, I didn't think they mattered. And then suddenly he goes to the eye doctor. They're like, you had 20/20, but now you've got a little better vision. He puts them in and he's like, dude, I can actually see even better up close now. It's almost like a hybrid of reading glasses. And so he gets out his
Wow.
turret and he's like, I almost don't need the little reader. I can actually just see the turret without pulling my head all the way off.
Nice.
So
Nice.
he
It's
may not need
exciting.
him either.
Yeah, I
So
love it. It's exciting. I did
it's
not expect
exciting.
I did not expect to have this benefit. It's a whole different world. My brain is relaxed now. I don't have to go focus for close and then focus for far, back and forth. I feel like
That's hard.
towards the end of the day, my brain would always be, getting
Yeah,
strained. It makes
for
a big
sure.
difference. So anybody, if you're like over that 35, 40 threshold and you're struggling with it a little bit, just maybe go in and get checked. That was my first time to an eye doctor. I'm 44 years old, full disclosure. Like, I don't know why I didn't go sooner.
Wow.
I don't know.
Been going since middle school.
It worked until it didn't.
Greg.
Oh,
Once it starts going, it goes fast.
Yeah.
yep.
Oh man. Okay, so there are a lot of calibers people shoot in the PRS or precision rifle
Yeah.
shooting. So Chad, you shoot a 6 mm, Fancy, you shoot a 6.5. Is there one that you think would be like the best caliber for PRS, or perhaps one that you would recommend to somebody?
It's funny. I just had this long dialogue with someone. It was not long. It was probably a 30-minute call about somebody who wanted to get into the sport. They shot a couple
Mhm.
matches, looking at building a
Mhm.
trainer, kind
Yeah.
of the same concept. And the long story short of it is, I mean, look, a 6.5 Creed, which is just the ubiquitous do-it-all vanilla ice cream, new 308,
Right.
has won the AG Cup at least twice. I think, Andy
Okay.
won it with that. I won it with that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I know it's won a ton of matches. The six
Mhm.
Dasher family has won a ton of matches. And the 25 caliber has won matches.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any given caliber that you should
Mhm.
shoot in order to be successful. I think that's sort of overblown. People kind of gravitate towards, oh, you have to use this or you have to use that. I think
Mhm.
that's maybe giving a little bit too much credence to what the caliber
Right.
is and not enough credence to the practice and the time and effort you put in to make
And
it
the
shoot well and know it.
fundamentals.
But
Yeah.
that said, I think if you're getting started and trying to get into the sport, getting easy to find ammo that's low cost. There's no substitute for live fire. So a 6.5 Creed is very cheap. Ammo is everywhere, and it's one of the easiest to find. If you can get a 308, that's also very low cost. It's just got a little more recoil, and it makes it a little bit more challenging to develop solid fundamentals. So if it were me, and you said, hey, pick something out of a hat, I'd say a 6.5 Creed is just as easy and
Mhm.
a good enough cartridge to do everything you could want it to do until you need
Mhm.
something hyper specialized, either with more energy or just faster speed with very, very, very high precision. So,
Yes, Chad.
yeah.
As a gunsmith, I get asked this question all the time, and
Yeah.
it's it's always the same. It's what's the lowest recoiling best cartridge that you can get into, because in this game, like, being able to manage recoil and see where your bullet lands is everything. Um, but if they're going to reload, I still got to take Francis's lead on this one. And if they're not going to reload, sorry, 6.5 Creed is what I tell everybody. I think everybody should own one regardless of whether you reload or not, number one. And then if you already have that, I'm going to steer them towards something like a 6BR or a 6 Dasher, something like that, with a 105 hybrid or the 109 Burger hybrids. Um, I'm more I more care about the bullet than I do about the specific cartridge. Like, if you really want to go fast, run a 6 Creed, but still run that 109 or the 105 Burgers. Like, they're so forgiving, they're easy to load for. They hold up all weekend. You can shoot 300 rounds and not have to worry about things changing on you. But I think that there's been 4, 5, 6, 7 years of experience saying that faster is not better for what we do. It's not necessarily better. It can be good, but the slower bullet allows you more time to see it and get your, recoil out of the way and,
Yeah.
get your sight picture recaptured. And I think that if you're running a bullet in that 2750, 2800, a 6 millimeter bullet, you're going to see more. You're going to have a better experience. I'm super stoked about the new suppressor class because
Yeah.
it's good for the shooters, it's good for the spectators, and for the ROs. And the brakes kind of just beat people up. So I think that, I think if I had to tell somebody that was going to reload, I would say 6BR. It's easy. Grab some Lapua Brass 105 hybrids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like both of your answers because I started with a 6.5 Creedmoor and then I switched to a 6BR. And I'm
Okay.
a very petite
Mhm.
stature, so like the 6.5 was a little much at times, especially if it wasn't a very solid shooting position. But I do love that you have people that have had such good successes in their shooting journey with a 6.5 Creedmoor or with other calibers. So if somebody's getting into the sport, they can look at you guys and be like, okay, yeah, the 6.5 might have a little bit more recoil, but it's still manageable. You can still learn fundamentals. And so I think what's encouraging now is that everybody's open to shoot their own caliber, what they like, what they prefer, and they can be successful in it. And so there's not then like oh, you have to shoot this. Like there's not that false image of you have to shoot this or bust.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think
the idea that the cartridge holds you back is something that some shooters early on get hung up on. Like, oh, I'm only shooting a 6.5 Creed. I should probably get a dasher in order to be more competitive. It's going to get me 1 or 2 more impacts or 10 more impacts. It won't.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it will help at certain points in your journey, but that's
Mhm.
kind of having the tool to understand. And I think that's something we'll probably touch on later, but finding your weaknesses and understanding what they are and training them out, that is the name of the game. Is it call it the game of the interpersonal game? It's what you're trying to develop. And that's
Yeah.
where having a 6.5, having a BR, and having, even for me, I use a 300 Norma as a trainer because
Yeah.
it really stresses fundamentals. So
Yeah.
The funny thing is, we haven't talked about the podcast yet, but we're on like episode 135, and there's not a single episode talking about cartridges because we don't feel that it's a priority. It's not, you can win with any single one of them, so stop stressing too much about it. Yeah, you need something that's reliable and something you're comfortable with.
Right.
Past that, like, get down to work on the stuff that really matters.
So good. Such good answers.
And speaking of stuff that matters, you kind of touched on it earlier, but why can't you win with a suppressor? Like everyone says, why do you have to run muzzle brake?
I knew it was going there. I knew it.
All these were one with a suppressor.
Yeah. and all of the ones downstairs in my other room. Yeah. No, I think
The question's too perfect. I'm sorry.
yeah.
It was funny.
I
We were
mean-
at 419 a couple weeks ago, and I
Yeah.
never really thought about it. Like you say that tongue in cheek, but there's really not a lot of people that are doing it, and I'm not sure why.
People are uncivilized.
He's like, one of you two guys would have won this award or won this suppressor thing every year. And then I got to think about it. I was like, you're right. There's not a lot of people in the top 20 that are doing it with suppressors. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I like my brain and my hearing too much.
So, I mean, you talked about that kind of that award. Do you want to kind of like say, are you going for that award this year?
I'm going for the wins. Like there'll be a suppressor on my gun regardless. And if I get a $5,000 check from Silencer Co., I think that's who put it on, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
I was
is.
gonna say I don't want to give credit to the wrong company, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. And yeah, if I do it with a suppressor on there, it's gonna be done with a suppressor either way.
Yeah.
Love
I'm
it.
the same way. It's not something that I'm like, oh, let me change my strategy. I've already been shooting one for now I think 4 seasons plus. And
Right.
I mean, we have a lot of episodes in the podcast where we sort of hint at this and a couple where we've talked about it, but there is a distinct difference between a brake, a full suppressor, and then having that sort of hybrid. And if you step from a brake to a hybrid suppressor to a full suppressor, hybrid's still a suppressor, by the way, just to anybody who doesn't know
Sure.
that there's a differential. It just means it has a baffle stack on the end. And Corey, which one do you have on that?
This is the Thunder Beast, but we're hopefully going to be able to do
Yeah, there you go.
demos with everything. The 419, we talked to Craig and hopefully Silencer Co.
That's
But for people wondering, the suppressor part, the brake part.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. No, and I mean there's a distinct feel of a muzzle brake that is very quick. The pulse it happens, and then there's a huge concussion that
Yeah.
you don't really feel it too much. At least you don't think you do as a shooter. It happens, and you feel it a lot more than you might realize cumulatively. Going to sort of the hybrids, the concussion portion of this blast goes away, and suddenly it's loud with your pro in it at least. It's still loud, but it's very soft compared to that of a brake. And then moving to a full suppressor, you don't hear anything. You just feel the shove of the rifle. And what you're trading off in one case is a brake is very loud with no motion. A hybrid is softer with very little motion. And then a full suppressor is extremely quiet with no blast, but has, relatively speaking, a lot more motion. Far less than a bare muzzle, but you're trading off the amount of time versus, let's call it concussion. And the thing that I see specifically with suppressors versus brakes is there's two modes to miss a shot when you're looking downrange to miss the information that you need to draw back out of a shot. One is a blink. If you blink, there's about a
Yes.
quarter of a second to a little over for you to recover the full sight picture and then reacquire what you're looking at downrange.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a given. Like you don't know where your rifle, after it moves, where you're blink, where you're looking. That's part one. Part two is the visual impact of what you see downrange, meaning can you actually see the small components? And that is affected by how long the rifle is under motion. So if the rifle there's no snap, it's just you can see everything and you don't blink, but the rifle's moving a lot. It's very hard for you to acquire all the stuff happening downrange through your reticle because your reticle's moving. Conversely,
Right.
the reticle is dead still, but the blast is so loud that you blink, you miss the first 0.3 seconds of time of flight, maybe even 0.4, and that's 500 to 600 yards if it's a 0.4 to 0.5 second time of flight. So you might not be able to see anything inside of 500 yards because the target's already been hit and you're seeing things late. So either of those scenarios are bad. So the hybrid brakes and suppressor combos fix, for me, both of those problems at the same time. They limit my motion and they limit the concussion so I can see far more clearly. And I'll shoot, if you probably see it on some of the videos. I don't blink at all during multiple shots. And that's a huge, I'll get the reset when I move positions. So
Wow. That's cool.
Do you feel the end of the day advantage? Like when you're still processing information on like stage 10 of the day and it's day two and you've shot 20 stages, do you feel like you're more fresh shooting suppressed? Because that was one thing that I really noticed.
yeah, Chad, I want you to talk about this because this is kind of funny. I started shooting it and I told Chad, hey man, you should get one of these. No, but I want Chad to tell the story because this is exactly why I was like, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. But Chad has a better anecdote of it because of what he went through.
I mean, I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to, so you might have to refresh my memory. But I'm very science based in my brain. I have a mechanical engineering degree, and like to me, when I think about like how much of the time is going to be consumed by the recoil, I think the brake is the quickest, shortest thing, and then I can have the most amount of time. Like the brake timeline is here, and then the timeline of the bullet flying is here. But the problem is that, like Francis said, um, there's an explosion going off in front of your face, and this concussion is actually probably giving you minor amounts of brain damage. We have a friend that was in the military. I'm not going to say who it was, but like he would literally like lose points of time in his brain when this would happen. Like it would just go black, and then he would lose more than what we would lose from not having multiple concussions in his life, or from not having multiple concussions in our life. And he said when he went to the Maverick, he's like, I can shoot the whole day. I could shoot the whole weekend. I could shoot all week, every single day, 200 rounds a day, and not have this problem. I was just very concerned that I'm a very, I don't like change. So if something's working and I'm winning, like, don't change it, please. And
Yeah.
I would start feeling exactly like you're feeling, like you're describing, Corey. Like by the end of the day, I would have a headache. By the end of the weekend, I would have even bigger headache, and you don't know what that is doing cumulatively over time. And we shoot over 10,000 rounds a year. Like it's not just the hearing portion, the audible portion and the concussion portion, but your face is like on the gun, and those bones in your ear, like they're getting that beating every time. So at least with the suppressor, increasing the duration, it reduces the amplitude basically of it.
Mhm.
And then I feel better. I feel better over the course of the day, over the course of the weekend. And I was nervous to change. And I told Francis, like after 50 shots, I I didn't even think about it anymore. It felt normal to me. And then I went to a club match, won that. And then the very next match I went to was the Collis match, and I won that match. So I won the next two matches in a row with the
Awesome.
suppressor. I was like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Well, that was exactly the story I wanted to have you
Oh,
share.
okay. I
Like,
got to it eventually.
yeah. Well, that was you walked it perfectly because
Yeah.
you were the person who is like, I'm not, you don't change anything unless there's a reason. You're very resistant to change, but you found enough positive out of it and then won the first two matches you used it. I
Mhm.
can't say, I mean, how much better of an anecdote do you need than say that suppressors don't hold you back? Even if it's a full suppressor. Jason Green, he shoots exclusively suppressed. I remember we had a call before the 21 AG Cup, and he was like, man,
Mhm.
should I don't know. I've been trying to break and I've been putting a Maverick on and I'm going to try these different configurations. And I'm like, well, what do you shoot best? He's like, I just love my 9-inch like T-back Ultra 9 and this 338
Yes,
Ultra.
preach.
And he shot the full suppressor all weekend because he just like, I don't know what it is. I just control the rifle better and it suits his eye and body better.
Mhm.
Hey, that's perfect. If you can
Yeah.
use full suppressor, run it because it's going to give you an advantage. You don't worry about blinking. And maybe that's the major fault that's causing you to miss your shots is sort of that blink recovery and then reset. And if it
Yeah.
is, that's processing time that you're losing on the clock.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. That is
Yeah,
very
there's a lot of, physics and math and science in it, but there's also a lot of mental in it. And if you're racking your
Uh-huh.
brain and, essentially, you know, like if you're walking with your CD player and you bump it and, you don't got anti-skip on and, you got 30 seconds of like before it starts working again.
What's a CD player?
You're old.
I'm
You are
all about
old
that.
your age. You are
The
40.
old
You
little
know what a CD
anti-skip
player
button on the little Discmans where you'd go boop and it would, oh yeah, it could still keep going because it buffers. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So your suppressor is your anti-skip.
I guarantee Camden has never owned a CD player.
No, oh no. Don't worry. I have VHS
Oh, okay, sorry.
player. I know what a phone book is too. Yeah.
All right, all right.
Phone book
You
is.
see one in a
Read a
museum?
map?
That's what everyone's like, you don't know what a phone book is. I'm like, yes, I do.
Those are what I used to stand on the PRS barricade.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
you're
a
good,
heart, by
don't
the
worry.
way.
Looks like a potato, but it's okay.
So
Oh,
actually, before we go into our next question, a bunch of people commented, so we're going to go through this super quick of just kind of a lot of people said hi. We got Adam Leonberger, Dylan, Alan Ernst, Steve Lease said thanks for everything, Jen. Dustin Plouffe said thanks for everything, Jen. Alan wants to know if Team Chances is going to be training for Mammoth next year.
Oh man. Probably
We have
not.
talked
That's-
about it, but we were both drunk at the time. We've talked about it before. And Francis,
Yeah.
it only takes one margarita to get Francis wasted, by the way.
Oh man, it takes
We
like
call
a
him one
quarter.
margarita Francis.
Yeah, we're gonna switch it over to half margarita Francis, but
Let's see. Grant Watson wants to know if you guys are coming to the PRS match at Clinton House on April 12th.
No, sorry, Grant.
I still yet to finalize mine, so probably not for me, but because I think I have a new commitment that week, unfortunately, for work.
We do like the Clinton.
But we do have an affinity
Yeah.
for the Clinton House.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
Yes.
Um,
The
Jose-
people are awesome. Like those guys work their tail off over there.
Yeah, they are.
Hey, if you ever come in there, you can always fly into Daniel Village and just stay with me, and then you're only an hour from Clinton House.
Sounds
Is
good.
that ice cream? Hold on, pause. Is that ice cream?
I have an amazing husband that just brought me ice cream.
Will you ask him to bring me some water? I'm so thirsty.
Give him my
Where's
address.
the ice cream?
He even stood there with two kinds of ice cream and like held them up to pick which one I wanted.
Oh,
And then he fixed me ice cream and brought it because he's amazing.
that's amazing.
That is awesome. You can give him my address.
Francis needs ice cream.
Everybody's jealous, babe.
Oh,
Oh,
Short hop, skip, and a jump across a couple 100 miles. Yeah.
oh.
practice.
Mm.
Let's talk practice. How often do you guys
Practice.
practice? What kind of practice do you guys do?
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yep.
Okay. This is probably my favorite topic because I don't practice a ton anymore, but I do when I do, I practice very specifically. And I think that's really the name of time management and trying to be efficient. How do you get more out of as little time as possible? So actually, I wrote this down. So when I start out, the first thing I'll do, I usually have two rifles with me, and I'll run the 5x5 drill as soon as I get to the range. The 5x5 drill is fairly simple, but it's 10-round drill. You're shooting 2 rounds modified prone off of a bench, then transition to 2 rounds off of a bag, and you have two different aim points. So I'm going to draw this because it'll be a much easier way to do it. Prone, mod prone, and then position. So you're working from your given. I'm going to have two targets or two aim points on a target. So this is my target, aim point 1, aim point 2. 2 shots off of a bag modified prone, fold up the bipod, go to a bag support only, 2 shots. Go back to a modified prone, 2 shots, back to a bag, 2 shots, then 1 off of a bipod, 1 off of a bag. So you end up with 2 5-shot groups that are right next to each other at the same on the same target. So you're working on acquiring which target you're aiming at very quickly, while also working on your NPA, working on your natural point of aim and rifle coordination, manipulating your rifle legs. You put your chrono down in a place that can catch both positions so you can get your speed at the same time. And I'm working on my zero by just having it be fundamental, and it's timed. It's a minute. I usually do it in about a minute 30. And if you really want to push it, you can make it 12 rounds instead of 10. But it's very difficult to get all those shots off in a minute 30 under a 90-second time constraint while manipulating your bipod. And the reason I'll do that specific drill is because I can do all the things required of a rifle very, very quickly. And it's as low round count as I can get all the things that I need done, specifically zero speed, comparing the point of impact from my positional shots to my prone shots or modified prone. But I'll do that with a higher recoiling gun. So I generally use a 6.5 and either pull my suppressor off if I need recoil practice, and that shows some flaws, or I'll do it with a 300 Norma, and that sucks, but it is definitely it shows your weaknesses. Do with a 300 Norma for 10 rounds, and then switch to my match rifle that I'm going to plan on using over the next few weeks. So whether it's a dasher or a 6.5. That is generally what I'll do a few times, maybe 2 to 3 times. So let's say 30 rounds, and then I'll only shoot 5 to 10 rounds on a 1.5 to 1 MOA target at 300 to 400 yards positional, and I'm done. That's my practice routine, and it's been that way now for about a year. So
Okay. So all in about 50 rounds.
yeah, 30 to 50 high quality rounds.
I like that. I actually was taking notes in case anyone's wondering. Oh, it's like,
Note to self, build 300 Norma. Call Chad and build 300 Norma.
There we
anyone know a
go.
gunsmith?
I like how your process is very much like quality over quantity. Like I think that's something that we all learn at some point in our practice regimen is that it's not about, oh, I shoot 200 rounds, I shoot this, that, the other. I mean, that's for rimfire. I mean, you could easily just burn through rounds. But I like that you're very focused on it's purposeful, it's you have a reason behind it, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's very easy to start throwing rounds without a purpose. And if you do the first drill, like do the one iteration of a 5x5, if you're doing it well, you can also pay attention to where is your reticle post shot and just make a note, hey, on my bag, every time I'm shooting from the bag, where is my average reticle motion? And I'll take a
Yeah.
look at what I'm seeing on the little target after the fact. I'm seeing
Mm-hmm.
things like positionally, I'm hitting about a tenth low, whereas mod prone, I'm a tenth at my aim point of aim. So those should be the same, but they're not. So I may be overdriving the gun with my forward hand or up on my
Yeah.
shoulder. Or
Yeah.
opposite, coming in and they're all rising high from a bag, and I'm hitting a little high. I'm generally coming in over the top of the rifle, or pushing
Mm-hmm.
down with my right hand, or having too much cheek piece if it's high and left on the target. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm analyzing those things, and the next 10 rounds may be a non-timed version of the 5x5, where I'll just shoot 10 positional or 10 off of a bag very slowly, say every 30 seconds, doing a build and break, and focus on the feel of, yeah, I need more hand pressure on my back of my palm at the back of the grip, or I want to feel the reference point on my jaw line so that I'm not overdriving into the cheek piece. you
Mm-hmm.
you and you'll break that up, try that thing, and be ultra hyper focused on what you think you need to resolve, and then go back and do the 5x5 again and see if it's fixed it. So
Yeah.
it still means you're only doing 3 to 5 reps of any given drill, but when you're working on something specific, do it very, very, very slowly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to start just, oh, let me do the next one and think you're focusing, but
Right.
you're not. You're just actually just firing a fast round and kind of focusing. This is
Yeah.
really difficult to describe, like what it feels like for me, but I can tell you, even I struggle to get into the actual practice mode where I can feel every muscle that's engaging in my body to make sure it
Yeah.
feels like it's in the right frame to apply the exact
Yeah.
same pressure every time.
Right.
That's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. It is. And
You want me to go?
Yeah, how about you, Chad?
All right, so my practice has evolved or maybe devolved over the last 5 years. I used to do a ton of dry fire, but I do little to no dry fire anymore, unless
mm-hmm.
it's the day before a match and you're able to do it at the range,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't cost any rounds. I don't like shooting a ton of rounds on the day before a match. I don't want to overfoul my rifle, and I don't want to get tired. Like we always try to be out of there by noon. We're there at sunrise or as early as they'll let us, and then our rule is like have our rifles put away by noon. But as far as being at home, I don't ever go to the range without a purpose, and I think that's what Francis was trying to describe with his drills. And I think there's a lot of people that go to the range and say that time at the range equals practice, and I don't agree with that. That's like eating junk food versus like stuff that
Yeah.
puts nutrients in your body.
Yeah.
I feel
I feel.
attacked.
I was about to say Jen looks like she feels targeted right now.
Oh, I wasn't even looking at Jen, but her ice cream is vegan, sugar free. I made sure of it. Um, but I for the longest time I did not have access to anything over 100 yards, and I always tell people paper at 100 yards will make you a better shooter.
Yeah.
You can't hide it, and
Yeah.
it really doesn't have the wind is less of a factor. Yes, the wind is a factor, but most 100-yard ranges have like side berms and stuff where really the wind isn't a factor. So you can really learn how to build good fundamentals and break good shots because at the end of the day, if you're not breaking a 100% good shot, then you can't learn from it. People say watch the bullet or believe the bullet. You can't believe the bullet if you can't send a perfect shot. And you'll never learn the wind if you can't send a perfect shot because you'll never trust what that bullet does downrange. You'll never be able to. If you do, then you're not going to be able to correlate it to something that's predictable or repeatable. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, like, people always want the easy answer, and the fact of the matter is that nothing about this is easy. It all
Yeah.
matters, and I really, I take every interaction with the rifle as seriously as possible. And Francis was describing how his cheek interacts and how your shoulder interacts and how your reticle moves. Like you need to become intimate with all of those variables. And most of them are things that people can't observe or point out to you. They're things that you have to come to grips with and, be honest with yourself about. Um, and there are things that like you can do on your own. And I suggest to people like go to the range by yourself. I don't like training with other people. When we go to the range or we're on a Friday before a match, like we literally do our own things, Francis and I. We'll get together, if we need to run out our guns and spot for a quick minute so we're not wasting ammo. But other than that, like I go one way and he goes the other way. And it's because it's more constructive. I can stay in my own head and,
Yeah.
there's nothing he's going to tell me that is going to, make me shoot better that day and vice versa, So just having that confidence and intimacy with your own system and your own body and how you manipulate your rifle it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to keep doing it.
Right. Right. Yes. Mm.
So, do you guys ever take an off season from practice or matches?
No, every month there's matches every single month. Francis does
Yeah.
not have a match in January, but I do. I'm going down to Texas.
Heck yeah, dude.
I'm staying at Corey's
Well,
house. He
see,
just doesn't know it yet.
that's fine. You won't be the only one. Snuggle up, dude.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Michigan.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Okay.
No, I think an off season is fun. It is definitely welcomed after the full-on pro season and the AG Cup specifically. You shoot the finale for the PRS in early November, and then you have a month before you hit the AG Cup. That timeline just absolutely flies because of Thanksgiving or in between it. And so it's pretty easy to fall behind. And then you get done with the AG Cup, that's in the middle of December, early December, and then you have the holidays right after that. But there's hunting season here. It's late doe. I generally don't get a chance to hunt anything prior to the finale / AG Cup. So late doe season happens here in Michigan. I'll prep and get some rifles going so that I can just go out and find some freezer fillers, and that's through next Sunday. So it's next Sunday. I'm done with that. Then I head to SHOT Show, and then really I'm already into the match season. I'm 3 weeks at that point coming back, and I have to be at Frostbite. So is it an off season? Somewhere between 6 weeks and 10 weeks of mixed shooting that's not matches, yeah. But otherwise, there's not really an off season.
But I mean, we're both like immersed in this thing every day,
Yeah.
from every waking hour with our day jobs. I mean, I walk 30 yards to my shop and, build rifles, and he basically goes into his office and starts doing the super secret
30
special
feet.
coordination manager or whatever that is. Did we decide what that is yet?
Special project manager.
Special project manager, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that's the fun part, and that's the thing that you were talking about training, and I would put it like in that realm. Our head is always thinking about our mind is always thinking about precision rifle, and I know people have that obsession with it, but are you really like thinking what can I do as soon as I get home from work? Like what can I do to make my rifle, more reliable or organize my kit or, work on my mental game, dry fire, everything like that. So we started it as phone calls every day. Now we do the podcast and we can share that with people. So like are you consuming content like the Shooter's Mindset and other podcasts like Miles to Matches and all those? Like are you literally working on something every day?
Yeah. And I think Chad hit the nail on the head. We're doing it in ways to be as efficient as possible about our time engaging with it. So if we're thinking about it, we're thinking about it when either A, it's the most opportunistic for us, like we're driving in a car, we have nothing else to do but chat. We could listen to music the whole time and talk about nothing, or we could record a podcast. We'll be efficient with our time if we record podcasts. But the time that I get ready to go think about doing something with my rifles, I try to block it off around either dinner or after a dinner as much as possible. But if for the hour that I want to be engaged and do something really important, I need to be absolutely engaged in the thing that I'm doing so that I'm learning as much as possible so that the next time I have to go do that, it's second nature and very fast. And I understand the important variables, whether it's assembling a rifle or checking balance and weighting. And you have to be really immersed in it if you're trying to get to the nth degree of success in this sport or any sport. This isn't just a precision rifle type of characteristic. In the golf industry, when you watch professional golfers, the detail that they go into on the smallest changes in their equipment, from taking an eighth of an inch off of a grip by cutting a shaft on one that feels just a little heavier than another. And we're talking like literally fractions of an ounce in order to change a swing weight so that the perceived feeling on their front, like if they're righty, the feeling you get out of your front right finger is the
Mm-hmm.
same as they're coming through the impact zone on every single wedge. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
the smallest details, but those are the guys that can put, a dozen golf balls into a 5 foot circle on command any given time they want. And we're trying to do the
Yes.
same thing from hundreds of yards away. So if you're really taking this seriously, take the time to really take it seriously, but do it on your own terms where you can be 100% present, if you will, in the tasks that you're going into, whether
Mm.
it's practice or something about your rifle setup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're about at the midpoint of the show. Remember, if you're watching us live on Facebook, ask any questions you may have in the comment section of the video. We'll ask it live on air. Other ways to catch us, you can check back on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. The videos stay up there forever, and we usually upload to all the podcast apps the night after the show. Then finally, everything eventually ends up on the Shooter's Mindset YouTube page, so that's a great place to look up past episodes.
So we would not be able to have a show with y'all if we did not talk about one phrase.
Which one?
You know which one. So I just wanted to bring up mindset a little bit and ask you how important you think mindset is, and specifically how much the phrase "the match has already started" and integrating that into your mindset. How has that changed your shooting in general? Because I know y'all started that, gosh, how long has that been? I would say that's only been like a year, but it's probably been 4 years.
Well, Chad started that. Yeah.
Everything seems like it's been like, a year, and it's been a long time. But y'all, you started that with the match has already started. Whenever, one match ends and you're looking forward to the next one, the match has already started with, like not waiting until you get somewhere, just being ready, and that preparation that you do doesn't start, at the shooter meeting. It starts so much before it. So just talk about that a little bit, kind of how that changed your mindset.
Well, if you go back and listen to the first few episodes of the podcast, our podcast Miles to Matches, it's actually multifaceted. The thing that I say all the time is the match has already started, and Francis is own it every day. So they both support each other, and they're slightly different. And there's things that we both live by. If you look on my jersey, the right hand side says the match has already started, and then the left hand side says own it every day, because they both mean like something different and awesome to both of us. As far as the match has already started goes, the phrase "the match has already started," it's a funny story. I was at a club match in like 2019, and all of our local guys, they were all sitting there BSing around the back of a truck. I already had my match book, and I had my first stage entered in my Kestrel, and I walked by, and these guys are just talking and talking, and the ma I could tell that their head wasn't thinking about the fact that they were at a match. And I just walked by and I was like, "Hey guys, like I got a secret for you." And they're like, "What?" And I said, "The match has already started. What are you doing?" And they looked at me like literally the match had started. There was no gunfire, nothing. But I was trying to tell them, "Hey guys, like go get your matchbooks, like get your stuff ready, get your dope on your turret and get or whatever. Like just get your head in the game." And then I thought, well, that was kind of rude of me to say, number one, because I didn't know them that well. But it was sarcastic. But then I got to thinking, like, that was actually a really smart phrase. It's very long. It's easy to remember, kind of easy to remember. But people always ask, what does it mean? And then I get a chance to say, literally from the last round that I fired at this match, the next match has already started. So what can I do this minute to position myself to be in a better place and have less things to worry about all the way up until that first round is fired? And then, just keep repeating that process. And we've had multiple discussions on the podcast about how you organize your gear, what you can do outside of the clock, versus when the timer is running. And all of that stuff should be done as soon as possible so that you have chance to double check it and to triple check it. Because
Mm-hmm.
the reason that good shooters don't win matches is because of mental errors. Like
Yeah.
there's great shooters out there. There's a ton of them, but they're gonna leave 1, 3, 5, 15, 20 points that
Mm-hmm.
they made due to mental errors for not dialing, not holding over, engaging in the wrong target from the wrong position, like
Mm-hmm.
all these things. You need
Yeah.
to declutter your mind and put everything else on autopilot so that you can focus on the course of fire and you can watch
Mm-hmm.
rounds and you can have the free thought in your brain to be able to read the bullet as it hits the plate and make the next correction. And personally, the
Right.
only way that I can do that is to be as prepared as possible. And I just took
Yeah.
it to an obsessive level. It's not a fun place to live. I'll tell you right now, in my brain, it's not a fun place to live when I'm always worried about what I should be doing right now.
Yeah.
But it allows me to make sure that on the clock, it's as few things as
Mm-hmm.
possible to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mental game, once you figure out the fundamentals of marksmanship, the mental game is all you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Chad nailed it.
the wind.
I definitely think the mental game is a huge piece. And
Mm-hmm.
you can watch someone derail on the mental game. Someone that is a phenomenal shooter, and you can watch them just fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think
Yeah, it
Francis and
doesn't
I
take
are.
many. It doesn't really take any. It's a wrong way to say it. It doesn't take any effort. It takes a lot of effort to stay mentally focused, but it takes very little to pull you out of that mentally focused state. And one mistake leads to another, leads to another. So if you can imagine, you just had, oh, my rifle started jamming. Oop, I just heard the buzzer. That's the halfway point. Where's my target? Did I dial my turret? I don't know what I'm dialed to. Where'd my dope card go? Those are just
Mm-hmm.
5 examples, 6 examples of things that I've heard shooters say on the clock in the same stage. So if you're trying to reduce all those things, what can you do to try to make those things just be second nature and
Yeah.
not be rushed and not be a place for a mistake to occur?
Mm-hmm.
That goes with anything, whether it's a hunt or hunting is a really good example. There's a lot of things you can do prior to a hunt that will make it more about finding an animal rather than making a perfect shot at any distance. And frankly, this sport has taught me how to do that consistently when I go out just to go
Mm-hmm.
shoot deer with any match rifle in a field between 200 and 500 yards away. I don't even get that little, if you're a hunter, you get that amp of adrenaline. I don't get that
Yeah.
anymore at all on a rifle. In fact, I go from amped as soon as I see it to dead calm as soon as I get behind
Yeah.
rifle because I've trained
Mm-hmm.
my body to think that as soon as I get on the gun, NPA, find my dope, range the target, I know what my elevation is, know what my wind call should be, exhale, press, follow through. And now I get back into that sort of amp state. So it literally takes me out of the moment and into the sort of Zen-like state as soon as I get behind a
Mm-hmm.
rifle by just having
Mm-hmm.
good practice habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about Own It Every Day because honestly, it's as significant as the match has already started. Francis did something in 2021.
21? When was
21.
Raton?
It was
21.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you tell the story or I can tell it from a third party, but it sets the stage for um, integrity and perseverance because you're sitting here today with the AG Cup. And you had a killer season. He's also got a number 6 season bullet right behind him, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, own it every day was just something that, when you go through life, there's always a reason for you to feel like, oh, I didn't get that opportunity that I wanted, or that one next thing I needed, oh, it didn't fall my way. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, okay, what can you do now? It doesn't matter when it's out of your control. Find a way to take everything that is in your control and say, yeah, that's on me, period, full stop. It's on me.
Yeah.
And at the Raton finale, I think, I was probably in the top. I was probably in the lead or very close to it. I was only down a few shots, I think 5 or 6 shots through 7, 8 stages. And I had a reticle on target through one of the really low, very, very low positions on a low rock, 7 or 8 stages in. And I remember being on target. I had closed my bolt, and then I thought it's not quite settling the way I want. I pulled back, I pushed forward, the rifle went forward, and my grip didn't. And the reticle is still on the target. And as soon as it broke, the reticle was 2/10 above it, but I didn't expect it to go off. I just touched the trigger while I was reshuffling my rifle. I opened my bolt, and this is all sort of in cadence, normal timing, ready to go. I lift my bolt, pull it up, and pull myself off the line, and nobody knew. They were like, "Why are you shooting? You still have three more positions to go, 4 or 5 more shots." And just according to the rules of the PRS, like that was an ND. I didn't anticipate the round to go off. Uh, I was in position on target and all the things you need, but I didn't expect it to go off. I was manipulating the rifle when it went off. And so I pulled myself out of that finale. Uh, it's it could have happened to anyone, and I know there are people who have had it happen that don't pull themselves out, but at the time it was the right call, and it's still the right thing to own a mistake that you make when you know it's the right choice. That was really hard. Being in the lead, in my third finale or being close to the lead and probably fighting for a bullet. I was already in the like within 3 points, 4 points of the lead of the championship.
Yeah.
That's a tough call. But
Very hard.
it led to owning all of the things that you do, whether you're training, whether it's the rounds you spend in practice, whether it's how you act and react in matches, the people you talk to, how you interact with them. All of those things are under your control, and you have to own those moments every single time. So, own it every day is just a mindset. Wake up in the morning and figure out what you have to do to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. That's what it is. So, which fits well with, Chad, the match has already started. You already have a goal.
Yeah.
It's
That
funny.
is
My wife does ultra marathons, and she did a 200-mile race this year. I think a couple of you were following. And she made this image of her when she was on one of her 100-mile races. I know she does it multiple times. It's crazy. And she
nice.
put the phrase at the bottom, "The race has already started." And it's in our bathroom
Oh,
mirror. And I was like, "Oh man, that is so awesome." It's not
that's
just
so
the match.
sweet.
It's not just the
Yeah.
match has already started. It's whatever your goal is. Don't sit here watching television or whatever, watching the shooter's mindset. Go after your goal. Like start figuring out how to break it down into bite-sized pieces and
Mhm.
incrementally chip away at getting there and do it now. Like don't wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too good. I want to ask real quick. This is a little going off on a rabbit trail, but we're talking about mindset. We're talking about having the mindset to have. Um, I jumped into shooting, loved it, and there was a solid probably almost 2 years where I didn't. Like I knew mental management was a thing, but I never really looked into it. And then I started losing points because of it. And then I would just not be in the right mindset. And but I just wasn't listening to people that were like, you need to start doing mental management. You need to start creating a process. And I didn't listen. And then I did. And then it completely changed my performance. So, what are your takes on mental management? Like, have you read books to help with that? Is it something that you've been mentored with? Like, what about just like the mental mindset? What are your thoughts on it?
Chad, I'm going to have you lead this one because I think we're very similar, but I learned a lot of what I do from you. So you started off.
Well, I read Lanny Basham's book like we all have, and then I bought it on tape so I could constantly listen to it and sleep,
Mm-hmm.
with it on headphones. I don't do that anymore, but everything he says is right in my opinion. I haven't found anything wrong with it. And as an engineer, like creating a process makes sense to me because there's certain things in manufacturing that you can't control or measure. You just have to follow the process, and controlling the process gives you the desired outcome. So there's literally quality control systems that there's no way to measure things, but you measure the process. And to me, like that struck a chord with me. So I sometimes you have to make things difficult, or make turning it into a process makes it difficult. But the fact that it's difficult to do, or cumbersome means that you're going to do it every single time. The worst thing you can have is a checklist that's so easy that you just skim through it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes there needs to be steps that seem crazy for you to actually be able to perform the task. And if you
Mhm.
stop focusing on the end result and start
Yeah.
focusing on the individual process steps that you can control,
Love that.
because people get their mind looking in places that don't give them any benefit, like looking at the leaderboard and working and saying, I want to get that prize off the table, or I want this trophy or whatever. Like, I didn't once look at the scoreboard during that whole match. I kind of like was I could tell there was a buzz, like people were talking. Oh, good job. Like keep going. They never told me where I was at, but the fact that every single person around me said that
Yeah.
kind of gave me an indication that I was doing well. It was kind of unfortunate. And then I just kept my vision just got like more and more focused on the process because it's the only thing. The process will set you free, but it will also distract you from the other things that you need to like keep out. And so if you can develop a process that works for you, it doesn't need to be the same for everyone. And then focus on the process elements and then just pick them off like one at a time.
Mhm.
Um, we have talked to some other people like Steve Anderson and a few other mental management type books, but a lot of it to me distills down to that, don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process steps.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Good.
agree with what Chad's saying. The building a solid fundamental a set of routines, things that just drive how you interact with your rifle, how you load your gear, how you practice. What is a pre-stage routine? What's the timing of when do you measure the wind? When you first walk up, how many times are you going to do that between the time that you
Mhm.
walk up versus when you shoot? Um,
Mhm.
there's a thousand ways. What do you do as soon as you get done with the day to pack up your gear and go to the hotel, get ready for the second day?
Mhm.
What is your process there? If you routinize that, even just small amounts so that they're consistent,
Mhm.
just makes the training portion of what you need to accomplish much easier. In fact, while we were talking, like this is what got me to mental management. I took a photo of a post-it note from a hotel that says EWSP, and it's basically my elevation, wind, stability, and procedural errors on a given match. And I remember that match specifically, I had 15 procedural or mental errors, and that has lived on my dashboard or of my truck in my visor. When I flip it
Mhm.
down, it sits there, and it's been there for a year because it was the one of the worst performances I had, and it kept me from a win. I'm like, I should have won that match by 10, 12 points. So it's been there, I don't remember how many months now, I think 9 plus, 10 plus months. And that process has kept me focused every single day. When I get in my truck, I remember that and I think, okay, today is a reminder I have to go do something to eliminate all of those mental errors. And like Chad
Mhm.
said, that's about process. That's about
Yeah.
finding small ways to eliminate them.
Mhm.
I think the other thing that, we didn't say about it is you have to stay positive. Like you can't let one bad shot derail a stage. You can't let one stage derail the match.
Mhm.
Whenever somebody asks me how the match is going for me, I say awesome, these days.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
kind of annoying for
Yes.
people to ask me, but like if you ask me, like you're going to get the same answer. It's going incredible. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
um so you'll get that tone from our podcast too. Like we don't like dwelling on the negative things. We don't like
Yeah.
making the excuses. We talk about the problems so that we can talk about the solutions or come up with
Yes.
solutions.
Yes.
But everything is positive, and if you condition yourself
Mhm.
to stay in that positive mindset and surround yourself with people that support you, lift you up instead of drag you down, like you can't. This is what Cortina says, and I don't know if he's where he got it from, but you can't avoid winning. Like if
Yeah.
you can do all of those things, you can't avoid winning. It's not going to win
Yeah.
every time. So when you don't
Right.
win, like don't pout, but you can't avoid it.
Mhm.
It will happen.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love hearing people's thoughts on mental management. So then how did I know we briefly talked about it in the beginning when, you guys would talk from 7:30 to 8 every morning, but how did you guys meet? Do you live near each other? Did you just meet at matches? Or how is it that you two started becoming such good friends all those
You
years
can take this.
ago and then now?
Yeah.
Or
We, yeah. So I still remember it from my first match at MTC. So when I first started, I had to drive down into Ohio to shoot
okay.
matches. And I
Yeah.
remember I did pretty well there. And then I found out there were matches up in Michigan. So I went up to Michigan, and I remember, I think it was my first match there. I shot really well, and I remember thinking, yeah, I probably won this one. Like this, it just felt like I should have won this one. And I go to the little, everybody huddles around and they read the scores. And as I'm expecting my name to be first, and then a second place, Francis Cologne. And I just remember this, what? What do you mean? Like I thought there was no way. And then first place, Chad Heckler, and Chad won this match. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's like 6'2", and he just beat me by like 2 or 3 shots. I'm like, I didn't think that was possible. And
What
not
does
that I
that
was
have to
like,
do with my
man, I
height?
didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I just remember all my
People
squad
watching.
was shooting horribly or relatively poorly, and I was way ahead. I'm like, I think I got this thing wrapped up. Well, Chad he beat me by 2 or 3 shots, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go meet this guy because I need to figure out what he's doing to beat me because I've never heard of him before. And long story short, from that happened, we started then going to matches together. We went to the Ohio match together and hung out at the
Big Dog, I think it was.
Big Dog Steel match,
Mhm.
and it just snowballed. And that was kind of that departure point, right? You're talking about mindset and how you approach people. At the time, I could have viewed that as like, oh, that's the guy who's always going to try to beat me, and I got to beat him. Well, yeah, but maybe he can teach me some things if we get to be, maybe we'll have good personalities. We can figure out how to be good together, and then we can figure out how to win more consistently. And it just so happened that we both had similar mindsets around development. And he's one of the best shooters that Michigan has ever developed. And, now we're jointly, we get to do it a lot together. So that was how it's absolutely started. That was where it came from.
I think
Out
we
of,
needed each other because you were too fast and I
I
was
was,
too slow.
yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
we were like polar opposites in a lot of ways, but what we did, we focused on the things that we were um, doing the same, and we're like, okay, these are sustains, and then
Yeah.
what are we doing differently that is probably preventing us? And then we kind of like came more towards the center. It's like we talked about Francis Clean on the last stage of the AG Cup. If you watched him shoot a stage like that 5 years ago, he would have left 60 seconds on the clock. I mean, it would have been crazy. And he left 5 on the clock.
I
So
would have gotten a 5 too. Yeah, but there's a really a critical component to the friendship that we built. It wasn't overnight that we shared like openly and honestly things that like if I say, hey man, Chad, this is something you've got to work on. Like we didn't have that right off the rip. It was like you just had to slowly walk into it. Like hey, there might be some ways if you ever considered doing blank, and you have to kind of learn how to deliver information and become good friends that can listen and take criticism and constructive criticism correctly. And now our constructive criticism are definitely things I can't talk about out here. I mean, we talk a very one-to-one level about things that I'm not doing well in my whole life that he thinks I should work on, and vice versa. And that's the value that we get out of having the relationship around shooting. It's that it developed trust around the communication process that if he's telling me this, there's probably a reason, and it's probably important from his vantage point. I can trust now that that's a good thing to listen to. Therefore, when it comes to now broader life, hey, I'm going to believe what he's saying, that this is probably something I should look at as well, because he's got my best interests in mind. He's not just a person trying to steer me the wrong direction or to win the next day. We're trying to do this together so that we both end up in a really, really good place.
and we have a special announcement as of last night. We are now engaged.
My wife's on the other side of that door.
Just kidding.
Like, ah. Oh God.
Oh, too good. So then you would say that you two becoming friends and building that trust, like that has made you better shooters because you were able to have that person that's in your pocket that you can talk things through. And then it's also that person that you know and trust, like how you said, Francis, like, oh, taking criticism, but you know that it's coming from a good place because Chad has your back and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to give people, hey, I think you should you should buy this or you should work on that, but not really care enough to just sit there. Like Chad won't tell me what to work on or something that's gone wrong until he really thinks he has a root cause figured out or thinks that there's a good enough discussion that I would be willing to look at what that problem or cause might be, and vice versa. I mean, it's almost pointless to say if somebody's new to arrival, hey, I think you should look at getting a new scope. like, or some just piece of gear change because,
Mm-hmm.
well, because that's what's I'm thinking about personally. Well, if that doesn't help Chad actually do something meaningful, don't
Right.
bring it up. Like
Yeah.
if you're just getting like it's hard to explain, but there are on so many levels the strength of a relationship and the people you surround yourself with will transform your ability to move forward in this sport or anything in life just because of the people and when they're willing to give you the right advice at the right time
Yeah.
and you're willing to
Yeah.
listen to it.
Right. Right. That's good. That's really good.
So let's do like the 2 minute elevator pitch. We talked about it just kind of in brief, but the miles to matches. If someone were like cruising through podcasts, what would they get? And like the average PRS guy, what would they get?
I think you would hear so Miles to Matches is two dudes who love to shoot that travel all over the country. What started in a white minivan, podcasting while driving down
Yeah.
the road and just talking about everything. It's one of the most fun aspects of me shooting matches. But to what do the listeners get? I think they would get uh, a mix of comedic, like good friends having a little bit of fun at each other's expense, with a
Okay.
lot of solid, pragmatic shooting tips, things that we experience in a match that, hey, if you listen to this advice, you can avoid this problem by just doing blank, blank, and blank, train to these points, or avoid, look at your new process and maybe change it to go this direction. So, elevator pitch, Miles to Matches is a place to think about matches, have some fun, but also focus on how to be better as a shooter with a little bit of how to be better as a person, too.
All right, I'm going to get my stab at it.
I like his better
I like that.
already.
I like that. No, so I would
No, it
say
was
that it's like
good.
I
That
hope it
was
comes
good.
across. I hope it comes across as like 20% comedy because like I don't want it to be too serious. We always start our episodes with a soft open, like so we're just like randomly talking.
Yeah.
So sometimes like really funny stuff comes out of that.
The moo card.
We got an episode called like I think it's called Even Betty White Works Harder Than You, where we go through Betty White. We go through Betty White's top 7 principles that you
God.
should live by, and then we kind of try to relate that to precision rifle. So, um,
That is
but more
amazing.
than that, Francis hit the nail on the head. It's two friends talking about something that they love, and we pretty much share everything that we're thinking about. I don't edit the episodes. Like there might be some trimmed off the beginning because there's just nothing going on. But I don't go in there and like pull things in and out of it. It literally is what it is, and it's
Yeah.
organic and it's spontaneous. And we are giving away like literally everything. 95% of what we have learned, they're in those episodes. So you might want to listen to them a couple times.
Have you found yourself when you're in the car thinking about creative things more since you've started that, since you've like started those discussions and then writing, recording them in a sense?
Can you rephrase that? I didn't understand what you meant by
Yeah.
create.
So when you're doing like podcasting stuff and you're just really just talking, right? Like it's two dudes talking in a car, or it's like five people, at different parts of the country, but we're just talking to each other.
Mhm.
But have you found that when you talk about something that you're really, really interested in, that the creativity in your mind translates to other things?
Oh, for sure. Like a lot of our podcasts, like
Yeah.
they kind of veer off into life type experiences, and um, those are my absolute favorite ones. I wish we could do more of it, but our minds automatically try to bring anecdotes from real life and bring them into shooting instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
It's just like the natural thought process and funnel, but I think at the beginning that's what we are really trying to do. And I think as it progressed and we got more and more exposure, people asked us more pointed questions about shooting, and we really
Sure. Yeah.
tailored episodes towards that. Um, so maybe we could do more of that. I personally think that those are more entertaining and they're more different than anything else out there, those episodes. So I enjoy them.
And you're over 100 episodes in, right?
Yeah, we're at like I've got 140 scheduled, but there's 135 out right now. We release one
Yeah.
every week or so. So
Yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome. That's a
Yeah,
huge
actually,
accomplishment.
just went through that 135 episodes, and we're just about at the 500,000 total plays.
Yeah.
Very nice. Heck yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and the top 5 episodes are number by most listened to. Number 19, reloading tips, and tips. This is hard to say. That's why I put it in the title that way. Reloading tips, tricks, and traps. That's number 19. Number 17, should you ever clean your rifle? Number 15, load development for PRS. Number 45 was rifle setup is critical. Number 14, downrange effects with Morgan King. Those are the top 5 most listened to episodes of all of them, but they're all pretty close. It's just those stand out. People listen to it a couple times.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple of favorites. I mean, I don't know. I think one of my favorites specifically for me, one that still kind of like that photo I showed earlier, is number 55, EWSP, which stands for elevation, wind, stability, and then all the P's, which is procedural, process, preparation, etc.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for me, the reason that episode keeps ringing true is if when people ask frequently, man, how do you get better? How do I get better at shooting PRS? How do I win my first match? Or what do I need to focus on? Well, the answer is literally in front of you. And credit to the guy one of the listeners said, hey, why didn't you name it Pews? Because it actually, the acronym can be reworked. I'm like, well, to be fair,
This
that's cool, but
opportunity.
no,
good.
it's EWSP, and it's because of the sequence. It's the hardest. Elevation is one of the hardest things to track throughout the course of a match and know where you're exactly at by visualizing it. Wind, it's pretty easy left and right, but it's an unknown variable. You're working primarily with the external environment. Stability is really on you, but you know when you're stable or not, and it's up to you to try to build a more stable position. Then there's the preparation side, and where you're preparing, you understand the stage, you have all your gear, your rifle's ready to go, and you have a process around it. So by using those 4 categories, elevation, wind, stability, and process, and preparation, you can say what caused you to miss. What's the root cause of any given shot that you didn't make? You go into a stage, beep, you fire 8 rounds out of 10, you had 2 timeouts. And if they were due to something that you didn't understand, that's a procedural error. If you had something where you were just super wobbly and you timed out because you couldn't get stable, that's a combination of, I put it in both. I'd say I wasn't stable, but it's also a procedural error. I timed out twice. So you need to work on stability to be slightly faster, but you won't want to rush in order to get those shots. If you miss
Right.
2 shots to wind and a 1 to elevation, if you do that throughout an entire match and you just right after the stage remember as many as you can and put them down,
Mhm.
you will know at pulling up that photo, you will know exactly what you have to work on. Like this is my wind misses here. There's my elevation, 5. I had 26 wind misses, 5 stability misses, and 15 procedural or mental errors. Without
Mhm.
without going to that length, how do you know what to work on? Otherwise, like Chad said earlier, you just sling and go into the range without a purpose is pointless. So
Mhm.
me, that's where episode 55 is easily the most important to me, but it's not the most fun. The most fun I think we've had in one of them was when we did episode 119, which is we talked about the most common mistakes, and there was one earlier than that we went like this NCAA bracket, and we would just pick 2 things,
What
and
is the most egregious mistake? Yeah, and whoever when it got to the middle, it was like it got down to like 4 mistakes, and we're like, we can't go any farther. These are all messed up. You can't say that one of these is worse than the other. They're all terrible.
yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah,
So
we would just
spoiler
say which
alert,
one would
it's the
cause
top
more
4.
points to miss. Yeah, and it ended up with the top 4. It was super fun because we both had to think through it and we had this back and forth about, well, if this, then that. It was fun. I really enjoyed that.
That's so good. Oh my gosh, that's so
What about you, Chad?
I like the Betty White episode. It was a sleeper.
Fun fact, you'll
I
learn
like.
about Chad's time at McDonald's
Oh
in that
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, and I like any of the matches where or any time we're coming home from a match and we won. Those are always the funnest episodes.
Those are really good.
Mhm. Oh, too good.
Winning always makes everything better.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Um,
people say just go have fun, and I said, well, winning is fun. Like,
Winning
we
is
can do
pretty fun.
both. Like, let's do both.
Yes.
So, a couple questions from live. William wants to know who can eat more tacos, Francis or Chad?
Francis, hands down. I don't
Wait,
care
old
what
Francis
I
or
don't care what
normal?
we're eating. Francis can always eat more.
Okay, that's fair.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Uh,
Then Joel from Mexico complimented Miles to Matches, says he really enjoys y'all's podcasts. Um, Byron wants to know, have you guys noticed patterns between people uh, where people are placing in the sport and what their day jobs are? Or people playing the sport in their day jobs?
It's one of the more interesting things, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I can't say that I specifically know what the pattern is, but I would say it's tends to be people who are highly process oriented. So
Driven.
driven. Pilots, there's a lot of pilots.
Well,
In
that's not
that case,
driving. That's flying.
well, process process driven. Yeah.
It's a checklist, though. They have
Gotcha there, little
checklists.
Mr. Pun.
Got a good point.
Checklists. Yeah, you're immersed in. Chad's now a pilot, and he's born to do that because yeah, he loves checklists. But I think engineers tend to do well. Pilots and or people who are very checklist oriented and process oriented tend to do well. Um, I I think I could tell you that people who are highly creative, they don't necessarily do poorly, but I think you tend like I was one of those. I tended to go out and experiment a lot, but never really understood what the experiment or testing was going to lead to until I became really systematized in testing specifics for a purpose. So it could be down a rabbit hole. Here's the example I would use: going in and just sitting at your loading bench, trying to shoot a smaller and smaller group every time. If that's your goal, you're probably going to struggle in a lot of PRS if it's just trying to figure out how to shoot smaller groups because there's so much more to this sport and any long range shooting than just making a small group. Whereas if you focus on the entire process and you look at as just one aspect is shooting a small group, and then the rest of it's wind reading skills, and you can find enjoyable aspects in all those parts, I think you're going to do pretty well in this sport. So
It's definitely a big brain sport for sure. And like it's cool that there's, you know, people from a very wide variety of backgrounds and careers, but one thing you will notice is that a majority of the people competing at a higher level are people that have the ability to process lots of information very quickly or develop very solid, rigid processes.
I was gonna say, and they have really good eyesight, but like, I mean, you got Bushman, and he's only got one eye, so
yeah,
because I feel like that's one of the things that started holding me back over the last couple of years, and like I said, that's why I'm excited to have my corrected vision. But you listen to people like Nate Tungate or Kyle McCormack, like those guys, they see more than I see. I can tell just by watching their interviews and listening to them talk about it and talking to them on the phone. Like those guys see more than me. I mean, Francis sees more than me, but I think those two guys see more than both of us combined. And there's a couple more shooters out there like that. And if you can manage recoil, have good fundamentals, and you can see, that's dangerous.
We have one more live come in real quick, and we'll kind of hit this somewhat abbreviated. Um, what do you guys see as the biggest challenge the PRS and similar sports face in the future to maintain growth and interest?
I would say I'll take a stab at it for two ways. One, I think it's encouraging people to get into the sport at a lower cost. That's This sport is inherently expensive, and unfortunately, there isn't really a good solution to make it less expensive. So unless you have, a few $1,000s a year that you can throw at this, and that's just to get your rifle going, it becomes very difficult. So I think
That's just to feed your rifle.
just to get your rifle up and running. Yeah. So I think one of the challenges is finding a way to encourage people to simplify aspects of the sport to have like a developmental series, so kind of like the regionals, but even maybe one type. In fact, shout out and props to MKM, Matt Steiner, Ken Sadowski, and Mark Setsky developed a kind of a feeder PRS light style entry level match where they took, I think it was 5 or 6 stages that are always shot from a bench. And you have, I think, 2 or 3 minutes to shoot it. And it's all bench work. So you just walk to a bench and you kind of stand there and wait. And you just shoot a series of targets. You go to the next bench and do it. It means that there's no transitioning from rocks and picking up your gear. You just start a timer on your bench and go to town.
Mhm.
I think it takes the pressure off of people who aren't sure about how to get into a position. And once you feel solid about, hitting targets from a bench where most people are fairly comfortable off of a bench, and they feel like that's a fun, engaging way to hit targets, I think the next level is pretty obvious that it would be, hey, pick up the rifle and try it from a bench in a rock, and then in a 1 day match. And then the next level would be, hey, try this at a 2 day match where it gets a little more challenging yet. So to answer that question, I think the biggest challenge towards the PRS in growth is developing a one step easier entry level match that is low cost because it only takes 50 rounds, for instance. And as long as you have a zero, you'll be close. Maybe unlimited spotters so they can get you on the clock. Something along those lines to get the sport more accessible at even shorter ranges. Maybe it's only a 200 to 500 yard match. So. But those are some of the big challenges. Obviously, after that, there's a bunch of other ones, but that's the one that I think for us to grow, it's just a battle of numbers, getting more people in to start and get interested in dialing a turret and hitting a target.
Yeah. Fine.
All right. And then my last question for the show is now that you guys have both won the AG Cup, kind of a big deal. And accomplished so much. The two questions are, what are your goals for this year, for 2025? And which of the win that each of you have had are you most proud of?
All right, my goals for 2025 is similar to last year, was to make the world team. So I'm trying to do that in advance this time. I'll be shooting TAC 308. That's my main goal, and to take top TAC in the series because I have to have a finale score. So I'll be shooting it all the way through the series. Remain competitive is a struggle in in any class in the PRS. It's highly competitive, and the targets keep getting smaller, and the matches keep getting tougher. So that's always a goal of mine. Um, I'm super proud of what we've done with the podcast and the fact that we won Sportsman of the Year, not 2024, but 2023. I just want to remain active in the community and do it with integrity and a smile on my face. And I want to build a lot of winning rifles this year. So those are my main goals.
Yeah, I haven't fully fleshed out all of my goals, but I can say there's 3 for sure that are on my to-do list. And that would
We're only
be,
talking about shooting goals at this point. The other
yeah,
goals, we share the other goals offline.
yeah. Qualifying for the world team. I think that's probably my third goal. I want to get a golden bullet and a top 10. I'm not saying that's a goal, it's a stretch goal. The way you attain that is going to be through a lot of other things. But, a top 10 bullet is within reach as long as you have a good season and a really good finale. Golden bullet, and there's not many of them, and there's 300 people shooting for it every year. Well, 800, but 300 are always at that finale trying to take it out.
Mhm.
Qualifying for the world team would mean a lot. I haven't really been in a position to qualify for the world team until really this season. So this season, again, just shoot like I did last year, focus on the process of practice and being routinized in how I get to the range and what I do. And the last one is just have even more fun at matches than what I have in the past. And it's
That's
not that it
important.
hasn't been fun. It's been fun, but specifically at the AG Cup and even the finale prior, I made it the most fun by just simply, hey, every stage is a match. And just as soon as I'm done with that stage, put it away, laugh, have a good time, talk with. Clay, I mean, actually, Clay and I, Clay's talked about it in the past that he's just tried to change his approach towards the sport. And I really appreciate how he's transformed his view on the sport. And I'm like, I got to do that too, because I don't want to take this seriously to where it makes me feel like I'm not approachable. So I want it to be more fun. And it's just, hey, man, on any given day, I have 10 stages to shoot. But the other, what is that? It's going to be somewhere around 18 to 20 minutes worth of shooting on the high side with prep. The other 5 to 9 hours, I want to be doing cool stuff and just hanging out with people and high-fiving them and get back in the moment. So those are my goals. Qualify for the Worlds, work towards a golden bullet / top 10, and have even more fun at matches.
Okay.
Okay, I said that was gonna be my last question, but we just got a really cool live question. At this level for you guys, is precision rifle a science or an art?
Both. Still both.
That is such a good question.
Yeah. It's leaning more and more towards an art form with a foundation of science.
I feel the opposite.
What's that?
I knew
I
you
feel
would.
the
Yes,
opposite.
battle royale.
Yeah, that's the first. I mean, we sometimes go back and forth. Where I'm at with precision rifle, the science of putting a round on target is still kind of a little unknown. Like we know what to do, but there are characteristics of your rifle, your bullets, your barrel, your powder, your individual rifle, bullet, barrel, and powder that the next one you build may not react exactly the same way. That's
Science.
science hopefully will help us unlock that in more testing, but it's not always like that. Wind, on the other hand, and me, I'm at the point where I'm working more and more towards wind skills and really trying to see the art of the bullet hitting a target, how the target reacts. And that is really science and pragmatic. But there's an artful process that's involved in just staying in flow state, watching and learning from a bullet going down range and retaining some of that information that's important and tossing everything that's not. That's the part that I'm really starting to enjoy even more. And it's very natural feeling.
Yeah, to me, art is creative, and this is not a creative sport. So if you want to like oversimplify the word, like everything that you just described is science. The wind,
That's fair.
how the powder interacts, how all the biomechanics, like this is all science. This is scientific right here.
100% pure science right here.
Yeah, everything can be distilled, and it's an oversimplification, but
It is.
everything can be distilled down to like, some mechanical interaction or chemical interaction, and that's all science. I mean, the most ethereal thing would be the wind, but that's still not art, I don't think.
It's
But either way,
still not art, but the artful part about it, in art, the appreciation of art is not the application of the paint to the surface. It's in the aesthetic and what is embodied in the brush and the soul of the person who created and put that art on it. And put the, paint to canvas or the charcoal or whatever media it's made out of. I think that's where precision rifle and PRS style shooting starts to be art-like when when you begin to appreciate the difficulty, and you and I have had so many conversations about this, it's incredible that we put 333 rounds over the course of the AG Cup match onto an average target size of like 1.15 to 1.2 MOA in a minute 45 at an average distance of I think it was 675 or 608 yards, 680 something yards. I mean, incredible that you can do that blind and never having talked about wind, and that's the art to me, is that there's something intangible that you're working towards constantly to be better the next time. What did you learn? And that's the part. It is science, but even science is artful. So
I just love it when we disagree, and then the conversation continues on. I mean,
We're
that's
gonna-
how this
who said
happens.
this? Brian, Evora, Brian. All right, Byron.
I know Byron.
Byron.
We know
All right,
Byron.
we're gonna do an episode on this. Mark my words, Byron.
Oh, that's gonna be a good one.
Can we call it 2025? Chad is science.
Just call it I like science.
I like science.
Well, I think it's really gonna come on like that the name, you have to name it when you get to the outcome of it. Like, especially if like, one of you changes your opinion on the matter by the end of the show.
Yeah, we don't name the episode ahead of time because that would mean that we had a plan. Every time we've ever tried to, we've only deleted 3 episodes the whole time, and because we each have veto power, that's one of the rules. Like if we don't like how the episode's going, then we can delete it. But we've only ever deleted 3, and they all started with like a goal or like a trajectory of how it was supposed to go, and those just never work out. It
Yep.
doesn't feel organic.
In
Right.
what episode number is this, Jen?
456.
Wow.
We have deleted one.
I know which one.
We're not gonna talk about it.
Oh, yeah, he's on this team right here. I know that.
And anyway, we've had to edit little parts of 2.
All right. Well, it wasn't
What,
me.
what,
I know it wasn't me.
No,
Thanks for having me on a few times, though. Thank you.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll wind it down to shout outs because it's getting late and we don't want to have, oh wow, it is late. It's 10 o'clock. Y'all are gonna go longer than Pat Kelly. He was our longest episode.
Sorry.
No, y'all have a record. All right, shout outs. We'll go Corey first.
well, I'm going to shout out Jen for probably the longest host.
Mhm.
Definitely felt like the longest keeping me and Greg together, wrangling us. So thank you so much for doing everything you did, Jen.
Been fun. All right, Camden.
I gotta follow Corey. I want to shout out to Jen. I was so nervous before I ever came on the Shooter's Mindset for the first time. I didn't know Jen. I think I maybe saw Greg once. I only knew Corey. And I just remember hopping on and I started talking to y'all. And Jen just had like this loving demeanor about her that like calmed my nerves. And now I get to be part of the Shooter's Mindset team. But I've also been able to see Jen over the course of the last 2 years and everything that you've done for our community and for our sport between the weekly podcast to figuring out who's going to be on the podcast next to doing all the live streaming at the World Championships. Like you have left such a wonderful legacy in our community, and so many people know you and love you. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Greg.
So I was gonna try and one up Corey, and like I was hoping that you were gonna call me after, but I can't even follow up to what Camden just said.
Dude, I'm going
But
to change mine to hers.
yeah, I'm changing mine to hers. That you're the one that got me into the shooter's mindset. And you've been doing this for 10 years. Like it's a really long time.
I mean,
So
if you ask me, I'd say, yeah, I've been doing it like a year.
yeah, I mean, I've been 20. I think I've been doing it like 5, and it feels like I just started. So like that's
Mhm.
crazy. But thank you for everything that you've done over the years. Thank you for saying, "Hey guys, you do it so much better than any of us ever could dream to."
Mhm.
You better work on that, Camden.
Pressure's on. I'll have lessons from Jen. We'll call each other daily and she'll teach me how to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to say it.
Uh,
Oh, well, I've enjoyed it. All right, Francis.
Well, first of all, thank you to Jen, Shooter's Mindset, Corey, Greg, Camden. Um, at the AG Cup, my wife was able to share in my win live as a result of you all being there and filming. I can't tell you how much that means to me that the people that I care about the most that weren't able to be at the match were able to follow along live and actually see it. And
Mhm.
I got messages virtually instantly from them saying, I just watched you win. I can't tell you how much that means to me. So I think thank you as a shout out for the last 10 years, but for me, it feels like 6. 6 years of my career, I have been a part of watching this show and seeing how well it's developed the industry and how well it's developed the PRS. And I can't thank you enough. The other quick shout outs, my wife, she lets me do this. And without her support, this isn't going to happen. Couldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be where I am without the support of my wife. All my sponsors, MDT working there, but MDT, Loophole Optics, Vitavori Powders, Bartland Barrels, 419, Trigger Tech, Impact Actions, Burger Bullets, even Applied Ballistics. We have that in our solver. But another one, the listeners of Miles to Matches. We have had such a fortunate time in being able to share what Chad and I do on the road, and yet the number of stories we see from those guys and girls saying we had the best match I've ever shot as a result of listening to this one tip, it's worth its weight in gold. So thank you.
Awesome. Chad.
All right. Shout out. I'm going to change the word shout out to thank you because to me, it's a thank you. I have to thank my wife and my daughter. I don't want to say they allow me to do this. Like, they didn't really endorse it, but they're not telling me I can't. And I do spend a ton of time away from home, and sometimes we're on the road, and I'm just thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I've already won enough. I've already done this, and I just love it so much, and they know that. And I told the story on our podcast, but when when I found out that I made the team, like, it was kind of last minute for the world team, and my wife was like, "What was that call about?" I was like, "Oh, I made the team if I can." And she's like, "You have to call him back. Like, you're going. You have to go. It's like right next to a vacation, family vacation, and some other stuff." And she's like, "You have to go. Call him back." So that's the level of commitment that our family has for us. Um, so I want to thank my wife and my daughter, Coraline. I want to thank Francis for being the best friend and the best thing that has happened to me in this sport, meeting this man right here. He pushes me to be better. He always includes me in everything. And the statement, if you want to go fast, go alone, go, if you want to go far, go together, like, just, it couldn't be more true for how our trajectory has played out in this sport. And I'm super thankful for it. So thank you, Francis. The shooter's mindset has had me on here a few times, and it's always a fun time. I want to thank all of you guys and the new members, Corey and Camden, relatively new. I know you guys have been around, but not since I've been on. So thank you. And last but not least, I have to thank Jen. Jen and I met in 2019, and we were just like having a few drinks at K&M and talking about we should just challenge each other to dry fire more often.
Yeah.
And that started up the dry fire training group. And then we had an episode on the podcast about it, or on the Shooter's Mindset about it. I can't thank you enough for what you do. Like Francis said, going to the Worlds and carrying your husband around, or having him carry you around, and his supporting you is so awesome. Like, you could just
Yes.
tell he loves you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you found him. So I mean, I want to say thank you in a way that I know how. I want to offer you a free barrel because I want you to come shoot with us. So I'm going to chamber you a Bartline barrel of any cartridge that you choose, and totally free. And you just tell me when. It doesn't have to be tomorrow or next month or next year or whatever. You can just say, "Hey, I need that now because I'm coming out to shoot with you guys." So that's on me. And thank you so much. Thank you.
You made me cry, Chad.
I see a thumb on the side. I was like, "I'm getting a new gun, honey."
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I've always valued y'all's friendship so much, and everything that y'all do for the sport. Y'all have always been such good ambassadors of the sport, and I've always enjoyed shooting with y'all. And of course, I'm going to come shoot with y'all because I love doing it. And I've always had a good time up when I go up to Wisconsin and go shoot up there with y'all, or Michigan. I know y'all are Michigan, but Wisconsin's where I've always gone up to shoot with y'all. So it's been fun. So yes, the plan is definitely to get me back behind a rifle. That's part of it, because it's hard to do all that we do. Shooter's Mindset has taken a lot of time with covering worlds, and the matches that we've done has taken a lot of vacation time. And all of that. So it's hard to do that and give it the time it needs. And the sport takes time too. So to do both and the things that I'm going to be doing with my own personal life are going to take some time. So to do all of that would be difficult. So part of the plan is to try and get me back behind a rifle. Yes. So I appreciate that greatly. So yeah, I'll have to think about what caliber I want to try and do. So thank you.
Well, we already talked about that on the podcast, so just rewind and go back and listen.
I know I'll have to think about what I want to do. So I appreciate it. All right. Well, gosh, I almost don't want it to end because it's weird to sign off for the last time. So, but I'm sure I'll be back around. I've already told this crew that I'm sure I'm going to come and guest. And whenever a cool guest is coming on, I'll probably be like, hey, I might come pop back in for a show here or there. So I'll be around. I know I will definitely be here and there, and I'll be calling Camden to practice our hey guys here and there. So with that, it'll be a wrap for episode 456, and I'll see y'all later.